This video is going to show us how to use the slicing software to send a file to the 3D printer. What I do is come over here and open up Prusa Slicer. I can open it from the dock. And this software will take image files and send them into code to send to the printer. Sometimes you'll get pop-ups, so I'm just going to quit those, get them out of my way. And what I want to do now is make sure there's nothing on the build plate. If there is, you can click on that image, and then you can click the delete key on the keyboard to get it off of there. Okay, but what I want to do is take a look over here for a folder called Plastics 3D Printer Files. I'm going to open that folder. Okay, so right now I have a few STL files. .stl is a file that will open up in Prusa Slicer. Here's the camp fork. If you want a preview of what these are, I'll click that one time, press the space bar, and I can see that here's a spoon and kind of a set of chopsticks and a stand. That's what the camp fork looks like. I've got a fish hook remover, and that's what the fish hook remover looks like. And I'm going to use this. So what I want to do is click, hold, and drag the fish hook remover and drop it off over here on the build plate. I can then close this folder. What I'll get here is a preview of the fish hook remover on the build plate. You can move it around and position it in different areas of the build plate. Doesn't really matter. I could click on this icon and I can move it. I can scale it, make it bigger or smaller. I can rotate it, move it around. Generally, I want it to be laying flat. So this one here is very important. See, is place on face. So when I click here, I can come over here and click on a face. If I click on this face, it's going to flip it over. If I click on this end, it'll print it upward, which probably isn't going to adhere to the table very well. So this one is good as it sits. All right. I want to come over here and check a couple of things. Generic PLA is fine. Supports, I'm going to change everywhere to support on the build plate only. Brim will help this attach to the build plate. This particular print doesn't need a brim. If I don't need a brim, I don't want a brim because it's just extra plastic to remove and it takes longer to print. Infill means the core of this, the density of the core is at 20%. So we have this hard shell and then the inside density of that core is at 20%. That's generally acceptable for infill. So I'm going to go down here and click Slice Now. And the software is going to run through the programming and give you a preview. The green represents the build plate adhesion. Okay, you'll also see a little bit of green up in this up in this corner, and that's some support material because it has to print this up so that it can print this shell. And then here you'll see the inner core where you see that 20% infill density. Okay, so there's my part right now. The next thing I want to do is I want to export the G-code. I click on export the G-code. I want to have it to go somewhere. So I'm going to remove the thumb drive from the slicer, and I'll put this thumb drive into the back of the computer. Now I'm going to click on export G-code. Because I put the thumb drive into the back of the computer, you'll see it right here, and I'll click right there. I'm going to give my file a name so I know it's mine. I'm going to put my first initial and my last name. I encourage you to do that as well. So name it with your first initial, last name, and it's going on the MK4 external drive, and I'll click Save. Exporting, exporting, exporting. It is now done exporting. I'm going to click the Eject Drive. Now that I've clicked the Eject Drive, I can come over here and remove this thumb drive, and I'm going to place it into the Prusa Slicer. There's a switch on the back to turn it on right above the power button. I'm going to turn it on. So from here, I want to find my file. So I'm going to click on, push in on that button for print. I can scroll through the files. You can see there's mine, and I'm going to hit print. There's my file. I can go back or print, click print. It'll take 3 or 4 minutes to preheat and zero out all the X, Y, and Z axis. And then you'll notice it'll start printing the bed adhesion. So this is not part of my finished product. Okay? It's printing out the build plate material for my finished product to print onto. So this took about 20 minutes to print. When it's done, I can carefully lift up on one corner and carefully be able to remove my project. Okay, you can also peel off the build plate adhesion so that this is clean and ready to use for the next person. My finished product has a little bit of support material. Right here on the edge, you can see that support material. That'll be removed. And you can see there's my finished product. And the last thing I want to do is turn off the printer.